My name is Ashika Jain and I am a third year student at the West Bengal National University of Juridical Sciences, Kolkata. I have been teaching logic at CLAT since the past 1 year, and today we are going to cover one of the most interesting topics of logical reasoning in CLAT, that is, puzzles. Well, as interesting as it sounds, this is not only an easy and fun to do topic, but also one of the most mark scoring ones. I say this because this is one of the very few topics in the CLAT of which you can be sure of the answer inside the exam hall itself. Now, without much ado, let us begin to discuss what is this topic. Firstly, we shall go through what are the do's and don'ts of puzzles. Well, as I've always said, while this might sound a bit theoretical, for practical topics like puzzles, you will find yourself coming back to these do's and don'ts again and again. While these might sound very basic and very logical to go about it, but you will understand that as you move on to the more advanced puzzles questions, these are the mistakes which students usually tend to make. First, looking at the do's, we see that check the number of elements in the question. What do we mean by number of elements? So you will see that in most puzzles questions, there will be several elements involved. By elements, I mean the number of people, the country from which these people are hailing, the actresses these people like, the fruits these people prefer. All of these things are essentially elements. That is, fruits, countries, persons, so on and so forth. What are you required to find out? You will probably be given some information and some information will be lacking. Say if they tell you that there are 8 people in that question and they might tell you about the preferred fruits of a few of them and the preferred actresses of the rest of them, they will not give you the preferred fruits of all of them or the preferred actresses of all of them. That is what your job is to find out. So the first task when you look at any puzzles question is to understand how many elements are involved. That is, whether only actresses and fruits are there or whether countries are also there and persons are also there. This will help you make a tabular format, that is a table wherein you will fit in all the information as and when you go through the instructions. While what I'm saying right now might not be very easy to comprehend, you will understand its meaning as we solve the questions. Second, read the question properly. I say this in every class of mine because as you move on to more advanced questions, you tend to skip a few instructions here and there, and these prove to be a big blunder. Hence, reading the question properly is one of the most important things for not just logical reasoning, but for every subject of the CLAT. Next, use the options to your advantage. Here you will see that in certain questions, there might be an ambiguity between two options. Say you're confused whether Ram's favorite fruit is apple or orange. But there's a question which says, what is Ram's favorite fruit? And you see that in the options, you only have apple, but you don't have orange. Hence, you can resolve the ambiguity in your head by clearly marking the option as apple because you are very sure of the fact that the favorite fruit has to be between apple or orange. And the answers have essentially helped you in choosing between the two. Next, use pen and paper to solve. Again, puzzles is one of those topics which you should not try to do mentally. Hence, always use a pen and paper to solve puzzles questions. The first don't also flows from this very logic wherein I say that don't try to do it mentally. Secondly, don't try to make assumptions. Again, as I told you in the previous example, you are confused between whether Ram's favorite fruit is an apple or an orange, right? Now, while you can use the answers very easily to clear your ambiguity, do not assume Ram's preferred fruit to be apple or orange without any logical basis to do so. And in case you are forced to make an assumption, as you will be in some of the difficult questions, remember that you have made an assumption and that later on that assumption might prove to be right or wrong. Next, don't start with inconclusive statements. Now say that I tell you that Ram's preferred fruit is neither orange nor apple. Here, what will you write down on the table that you have just made? You might as well write down the name of Ram under the persons column, but you can't fill in the fruits column with only negatives. At the most, what you can do is write an apple and an orange in brackets, which will remind you that neither apple nor orange can fit in them, but you can't really proceed with such negative or inconclusive statements. The importance of this instruction might be clearer as we solve the questions. Next, don't skip any instruction. As I've already said, reading the question properly actually entails not skipping any instruction. Sometimes students feel that some of the options or some of the instructions which are given in the question are superfluous, meaning that they're not really required. Check yourself whenever you feel the same way. It is very improbable that the question paper setter will actually give you certain useless instructions. Hence, before you come to the conclusion that any statement or instruction is superfluous, please check yourself twice. Lastly, don't ever rush with the questions. Well, this applies for every subject of the CLAT and for every exam of your life for that matter. Do not ever skip any instruction or rush with the questions, as that might just lead to you taking more time because you might end up making a silly mistake and redoing the question altogether. Hence, it's very important to be patient and calm. Now, we are done with the basic theory of puzzles. Let's move on to the question to finally understand what this topic entails. This is the first example which we will solve in today's class. As I already said, read the question properly and first and most importantly, try to find out what the elements are. Reading it together, we see that the first statement tells us about PQRSTVW being 7 friends. So the first element over here is that people are involved. People, persons, names, and you can use anything. For the purpose of this class, we'll use the word people. 7 people are involved. Each of them likes a particular fruit. Apple, banana, pear, guava, orange, mango, watermelon. So the second element over here is what? It's fruits. Next, each of them has a favorite city. Bombay, Pune, Kolkata, Delhi, Chennai, Hyderabad, Cochin. So we see the third element of this question, which is city. So the three elements for this question are people, fruits, and city. Having identified these elements, we can take a piece of paper and make a tabular format with these three columns, namely people, city, and fruits. Now let's move on to the instructions. Q likes mango and his favorite city is Chennai. So we can easily fit in the row of Q, mango and Chennai as the fruit and city respectively. Next, the one whose favorite city is Pune likes watermelon. What do you do here? What you do is that you leave the people column empty and you fill in the fruit and the city column with Pune and watermelon. Because you know that Pune and watermelon have to necessarily go together and you might get the person's name later on in the question. So you've written down Pune and watermelon with the person's name empty for that row. Next, T's favorite city is Kolkata. Following the same instruction, you fill in T and his city, leaving the fruit column empty. R likes guava and his favorite city is not Bombay. So you write R, you write guava under the fruit column. Under the city column, what I prefer doing is that you write the city Bombay within brackets. These brackets should essentially be your cue for the fact that Bombay cannot be the favorite city of this person R. Next, W's favorite city is Cochin, does not like banana or pear. Now W, Cochin will fit in and banana or pear might come in brackets. Like this, you will fill in all the instructions which are given to you and at the end of it, you will get a table which has certain elements or certain columns and certain rows of this particular table looking empty. Now what do? Now, you should pause the video right now and go through the instructions once again to ensure that without violating any of the instructions which are given to you, how can you fill in the rest of the gaps which are left in your table. Take 2 minutes for this exercise, pause this video right now and try to Go through the instructions 2 or 3 times again and again in order to fill in the gaps which you have left in your table. I assume you all have finished your question by now. Here you will see that once your table and all the gaps in the table are fulfilled, the answer, your table should look somewhat like this. In this puzzles question, we were able to fill in all the gaps, that is, the fruit and the city names of all of the people involved, and this is what your table should look like. It was simple, wasn't it? And interesting also. With this, we move on to the second example for today's class. In this example, again we move to identifying the people and the elements involved. Again, we read the first statement. 7 persons, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, they work in different organizations. So the first element is people. Second, they are working in different international organizations, namely WHO, WTO, OPEC, NASA, ILO, WB, and UN. Alright, so this can be our second element, international organization. Next, each person belongs to different countries, US, UK, Canada, Russia, France, Japan, and China. Again, not in the same order, of course. So the third element for this question is country. So here we get the 3 elements which are present for our example 2. First, persons. Second, organization. And third, country. With this, we proceed with the instructions which are given to us as we did in the first example. Here we see that U belongs to the US and works neither in OPEC nor in NASA. So here what do we do? Under the persons column, we put in U. In the same row, we put in US. And under international organization, we put OPEC and NASA within brackets, which is again what? It's a cue for us to know that U can work neither in OPEC nor in NASA. Moving on. The one who works with WHO belongs to the UK. Over here we apply the same concept wherein we leave the person's name empty and we fill in the part of international organizations and country in the same row. P works with WTO, belongs neither to Russia nor France. Again, P and WTO will be in the same row, and Russia and France can be in brackets in that very row. The one who works with the UN belongs to China. So UN and China will be in the same row and the persons column will be completely empty. Q belongs to Japan and does not work with NASA. Again, Q and Japan will be in the same row and the international organizations table will be empty. The one who works with NASA does not belong to France. So here you know that the one for whom you've written the country France will never have the international organization NASA beside it. S works with ILO. V does not belong to the UK and does not work with NASA, and T does not work with NASA. Now you all might think that how will these negative statements help us, right? But as they might have helped you in the first example also, over here also they will essentially help you to crisscross certain parts and certain rows and columns of the table and hence lead you to the correct answer. Say for example, if I know the statement that T does not work with NASA and there is a part of this table wherein NASA has been written but in the same row the person's column is empty, you will very well know that the person T can never be placed there because there is a negative instruction to that effect. So what do? You look for the other spaces in the column of people to find out where can T be placed. Over here also, I would implore you all to stop this video, pause it for at least 2 minutes, go through the instructions of this question again, if not once but twice and maybe even thrice, because this is the first day that I'm assuming you must be solving puzzles question, and then go through the instructions again and again and find out that without violating the instructions which are given to you, how can you fill in all the gaps and all the rows and columns of this table and make it a complete one. I hope you all are done with the question and I hope this is what your table looks like. Interesting, wasn't it? We see that the persons, organizations and country, all 3 elements, that is all three columns of your table have been completely filled in. Any puzzles question might take you maybe 3 or maybe even 4 to 5 minutes. You might think that this is too much of a time investment for for an exam like the CLAT, in which time is very crucial, right? However, the good part about questions is that one question is followed by 4 to 5 questions approximately. So essentially, if you're given 4 minutes or 3 minutes for one puzzles question, you are, as a bargain, getting 5 marks out of it. And remember, these 5 marks are sure shot 5 marks, because this is not a subjective question where you might not be sure of the answer, but this is absolutely an analytical and objective question. Here is something to help you with solving and understanding the rationale behind the second example, and I hope this helps you for all of those of you all who maybe could not solve the question. With this, we come to the end of today's class. Puzzles, guys, always remember, while it is a very interesting topic to do, you should not become very overconfident about it. The reason I'm saying this is because while these sums might prove to be a little easy in the very beginning, as and when you go on to do more difficult questions, the difficulty and the intensity of the question increases, and then each and every word and each and every instruction of the question becomes very important. Wherever you do not understand the implication of any statement, you should always read the question again, read the instruction again, and try to understand and grasp what the question is essentially trying to say. This is the only thing that I have from my side which will help you to solve puzzles questions. Hope it helps. All the very best. Good luck, all of you.